Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion Throwing in the Towel Week 2 edition. So just to recap, this is a segment where every week I pick one team and throw in the towel on their NFL season. Last week's team was the Arizona Cardinals. This week, let's find out who it is. Starting with the AFC East. The representatives for the division this week, the Patriots and the Jets. Patriots are already 2 games behind the Dolphins in the AFC East with a head-to-head loss, and while they aren't a bad team, they don't appear capable of hanging with Miami or Buffalo. Jets, for them to salvage any chance at that playoff run, they can't continue to pretend that Zach Wilson will lead them to their first postseason berth in over a decade. In his 3rd year, Wilson has shown that he's not a starting caliber quarterback. In week 2, he went up against a Cowboys defense, which may be the best unit league-wide, but it didn't look that much improved from his rookie or sophomore campaign. In the AFC North, you have the Bengals and the Browns, and the Bengals, after an 0-2 start with both losses coming in division, for the Bengals after an 0-2 start with both losses coming into the division, expectations for the Bengals should be reassessed, especially with Joe Burrow's lingering calf issue. Burrow missed a month of training camp due to that calf issue. He hasn't looked comfortable, and he couldn't drive the ball like he normally does against the Browns or the Ravens. Burrow also informed the media that he re-aggravated the injury, and his status for next Monday's game against the Rams is in question. So for the Browns, to recap Monday night, they lost the heart and soul of their offense in Nick Chubb for the season. The team's $230 million quarterback didn't play measuring better than Kenny Pickett, who also didn't play good on Monday night, and now the team has to try to figure out a way to keep what was supposed to be a promising season from spiraling out of control. AFC South, you have the Texans and the Jaguars, and the Texans, well, seeing Stroud progress in his second NFL game is a good sign, but the Texans are not a good team, nor are they all that close to being one. And as for the Jaguars, well, until they get things fixed, it's hard to view them as anything more than maybe the best team in a bad division, because they certainly didn't look like a legitimate Super Bowl contender on Sunday. AFC West, you got 3 teams, Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders. So as for the Broncos, there are at least some positive takeaways from their loss. Russell Wilson played much better than in the opener, including a Hail Mary that gave Denver a chance to tie things late. Granted, the 2-point conversion came up short, and because of that, now the Broncos find themselves tied in last place with the Chargers. Speaking of which, Staley's defense has been particularly poor. In fact, the unit currently ranks 10th last in total defense, struggling to slow the Miami Dolphins offense is one thing, not finding a way to stop the Titans late in the 4th quarter and overtime is entirely different. And until proven otherwise, the 0-2 Chargers find themselves among the league's worst team, even though Justin Herbert is their quarterback and they're talented, and the roster is very talented. As for the Raiders, Las Vegas' defense struggled to get off the field, and its offense failed to sustain drives, which is usually a recipe for disaster against formidable opponents. Division representatives this week, from the East we got the Patriots, from the North we got the Browns, from the South we got the Texans, and from the West we got the Broncos, and that leads into this week's AFC representative, same as it was last week, that being the Houston Texans. I would say, worst team in the AFC. Moving on to the NFC side of things, well, congrats to the NFC East. All 4 teams won all their games, so we got nobody representing this division this week. Different story in the NFC North, where all 4 teams lost, starting with the Bears. Outside of 2 drives, Fields and the offense were downright bad, unable to run the football, not executing quick blitz beaters to combat the Bucs' aggressive defense, too predictable, lacked attention to detail, gave up 6 sacks, and Fields showed many of the same bad habits that were prevalent last season. The Bears' offense is in disarray, and I don't know if there's an easy fix for that one. As for the Vikings, well, they lost because they turned it over 4 times and their defense is still terrible. As for the Packers, if they can get healthy and clean some things up, the schedule sets up well for them to establish some momentum and pick up some wins. As for the Lions, well, they lost in week 2 because last year's defense made another appearance. They have shown that they can hang with any team in the league offensively, even without injured running back David Montgomery, but it's hard to imagine Lions being any serious threats in the NFC if they can't get any stops. NFC South, 1 team represented the division this week, and that is the Panthers. Harsh reality in the NFL is that quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall usually struggle, in no small part because they tend to land on bad teams. If there was progress in week 2 against the Saints, it was minimal. The Young and the Panthers offense struggled to move the ball until late in the game. Young was also sacked 4 times, so that's not going to help matters. And In the NFC West, we also have one team repping the division this week. Cardinals did lose, but the towel was thrown on them last week, so they are out of the running here, leaving just the Rams to represent the AFC West, NFC West. And the Rams might not be a great team, but they aren't tomato cans. Defense is going to need a bit more seasoning. But once Cooper Kupp returns to the lineup, there's no reason to think that the Rams going to be a top 12 scoring unit. And midway through the season, or as the season continues to progress, the Rams could be one of the league's hottest teams. Puka Nacua is certainly having himself a season. So, looking at the division representatives this week, we got the Bears in the North, the Panthers in the South, and the Rams in the West. This week's team representing the NFC is the Chicago Bears, and the team that I have thrown in the towel on this week is the Chicago Bears. So, ultimately, the goal for the Bears this year, they're not a playoff team. I don't think playoff expectations were a realistic thing, but ultimately the goal is to simply go forward, not backwards. But so far, they've gone backwards. They haven't gone forward. As it stands right now, I don't see GM, coach, or quarterback losing their job. Maybe it changes depending on how the season goes, but again, as of right now, I don't see that happening. So that is this week's team, the Chicago Bears. We got two teams in the NFC we can cross off from the playoff board. And with that, we'll go on and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion Thrown in the Towel. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.